Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens Ask Me Almost Anything Day. I am here, most days I am here Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to work on the step-by-step writing project in which I am showing you how I write a script, trying to give you a little insight into the writing process. But every once in a while, because I get a lot of questions during the step-by-step, sometimes I pile them up and we just do a few questions as their own standalone live stream, and that is what we are doing today. Today's first question is going to be, it's sort of one that I get a lot of versions of. So I just took this one, which was, can you analyze some series or movies to show us how they followed the 6-question structure? And this is based on a video I did, which is called The 6 Essential Questions. And there's also a Film Courage interview with me where the title of it was, If You Can't Answer These 6 Questions, You Don't Have a Story. And that thing has blown up. It's got like 700,000 views, and I am really grateful to Film Courage for putting that title on there, because it seems to have somehow provoked a crazy big response, but it's not really accurate to what I was saying, which is not that you have to answer these 6 questions to have a story, or you have to fit this 6-question format into your story. That's not what it's about at all. It is simply a tool. It's just a thing you can do to ask yourself to try and figure out what you want to do with your story, however your story is going to work. We are not trying to say that every single story has to fit into this structure. Hello, this is Gitchy. I don't believe that exists. I don't believe there is a single structure that every story or movie or show fits. Just don't think it happens. I think that there are so many possible ways to tell a story, or even definitions of what a story is, that your job as a writer is to look through the things that you love, the things that stirred you, the things that you want to emulate or compete with, and figure out how they're structured. And then you try and if you're going to use a formula, that's the formula. But the truth is, no formula will tell you how to write your story. They're all just tools. They're shapes that you can try on, but you might find that your arms are bigger than their sleeves. Or if you think of it as a plan for a house, you might say, oh, I need an extra bedroom and one less bathroom. That's how it works. Every single story, every single artist, it's their own thing. And you've got to figure out your version. The 6 questions are just something that I figured out to help me understand a certain type of narrative, the type I like. I think it helps most people get a better sense of what they're trying to tell in a fairly conventional story. I think it works to help you focus on what you're trying to accomplish. It's not like you have to get it right. One of the things I've often said is there is no actual right answer to these 6 questions. You don't. It's not like everyone would get the same answer. You could apply the 6 questions to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and give it to 50 people and say, figure out what these 6 questions are. Who is it about? What do they want? Why can't they get it? What do they do about that? Why doesn't that work? And how does it end? Those are the 6 questions. Let me see. I think I got a copy of this here somewhere. Hold on. Let me just do this in case you have not watched my video, but you should. 6 essential questions on this channel. 10 minutes. It's worth watching. But these are the questions. Who is it about? What do they want? Why can't they get it? What do they do about that? Why doesn't that work? Which really fills up most of the story. And then how does it end is basically what does work. I go into great detail about what these questions do to help you figure out your story in the video. This video. It's a good video. But it does not mean that any two people would come up with the same answers for the same story, because it's just what you feel is driving the story. What you feel is the thing that the character is trying to get. It's not right or wrong. It's not like if you get it right, you pass the test and the audience loves you. That's just not how it works. What works is, does it help you find a core of action in the story that somebody will, the character will then have something to do, something to say. That's really the main point. You're just trying to break a story down into scenes in which somebody has something to do. They're trying to do something. That's the core of narrative dramatic writing. And I came up with these questions, and a lot of other questions, by the way. Let's just, don't forget this. It's got a whole bunch of other questions. Those are all videos on the channel. But it's not like you can, one of the things that drives me nuts, and this is where we're going to get into a larger issue, which many people ask variations on this question, which is, how do I find the right answer to what I'm going to write? The answer is you don't. You figure it out. You choose it. Okay? Everything that you are doing is a choice. Everything is a choice, and every choice has a price. In other words, if you choose to have it end in an explosion, then you can't have that ending where they're sitting talking in the library, okay? It's not that there's a right answer. There are some that are more conventional, some that are more satisfying to the expectations of the current audience, but that's not saying that's right. Sometimes you want to do something that'll just mess with their mind. I am sure that when they first presented the script of Fight Club, there were some people who were like, you can't do this. There's so many, just almost anything good. Honestly, even It's a Wonderful Life. Honestly, if you presented that script under another title to some screenwriting formulist, some screenwriting teacher who was saying you have to follow these steps and do this pattern, it doesn't follow. It doesn't follow any of the rules. So, yes, This Is Kitschy is right. The 6 questions get you thinking. That is the point. It is not to test whether you've got it right. The right answer is the one that you build that people understand when they watch it. Even if, many times there's artists who will say, I want my art to feel unsettled. I want it to feel like it doesn't give a neat answer, that there's troubling confusions because that's how life is. Well, that's a legit story. That's a legit way to tell a story. So the answer is, there is not the right answers to the 6 questions. That's the whole point of them, making them questions. It's not a formula. It's not a set of things you're supposed to match. It's a set of things you're supposed to ask yourself, and then you come up with your answer. Hello, Roddy. Good to see you. So that is the main thing about writing. Writing is making choices. And the 6 questions are just a bunch of choices that I think you need to make. Like, who is it about? You have more than one character in your story. Which one is the main one? Which one is the one that we are following? Or even in many stories, you're following multiple storylines and they are conflicting, and that's frankly what makes the story. The story is because one person wants to rob the bank and one person wants to stop them from robbing the bank. Okay, they want very different things. You have to decide if you are telling the story of one of those people over the other. Is one the hero and one the villain? Or is it about 2 people with legit needs who have conflicting needs? I would say that the movie Hell or High Water is exactly that. These 2 brothers are robbing a bunch of banks, and these cops are trying to stop them. By the time you are done with that, you do have a sense that while they've done some wrong, they've done horrible wrong, one of them more than the others, it's not like there's a hero and a villain. You're actually following both stories and the tragic conflict between them. So that comes down to the question of, why don't you analyze a series of movies? Because it wouldn't matter what I say about Hell or High Water. I think that Jeff Bridges in that movie wants to catch killers, but somebody else could say he wants to protect banks. He's in favor of capital, and he wants to protect the capitalists. You can make that argument. So I would just say, it's not like I can go through and say, oh, look, here in Star Wars, this is the answer to the question. The truth is, my answer and your answer will be different, because it doesn't matter. Nobody ever sees these answers of these questions. They only see the work that results from it. They see the scene that you thought of because you said, I want this guy to be protecting banks because he believes that the nation is founded on capitalism. That's the main thing that I think, and the reason there's another reason I don't analyze movies. Partly, everybody does it. Everybody sits there and they takes apart how great a movie is. And honestly, when you see a great movie, you do not see how it got made. You cannot reproduce that movie's making by looking at the finished product. When you read a great script, you might have an idea. Frankly, a lot of different movies could be made from that script. The idea that you spend your time looking at great art and seeing why it's great, that's how they teach you to appreciate art in school, because they're not training people to be artists in most schools. They're training people to appreciate the arts, to look at something and understand what's cool about it. And so that's all they're teaching you. But that does not teach you remotely what it was like to build that thing that is so great. When you learn to look at a painting, you cannot see how they mix the colors. You cannot figure out how they stretched the canvas. And so if all you did was look at paintings, and then somebody brought you some loose canvas and some sticks and some cans of some tubes of paint and said, okay, now you can paint it, right? Because you've seen how great that one is. You'll have nothing. You'll have no way to even start. So that's what I think is important, is to teach you the stuff about how you put together the pieces of which art is made, how you do it, and what you define as great. That's on you. That's your artistic choice. And I don't want to say to you, because Dostoevsky wrote this great thing, that's what you should be writing. It's just absolutely not true. So what I like to teach is tools, skills, and process. I think those are the things that an artistic education should consist of, that most certainly YouTube teachers and honestly most film how to write script books and classes don't do. They don't talk about the way that you get to the great thing. They just spend their time analyzing great stuff and saying, well, if you do that, it'll be great. And if you think about it, if you look at all the things that follow those rules and how many of them are not great, it seems pretty evident that simply following the rules that make you understand a great piece will not help you to make a great piece. There's missing elements to greatness there. Greatness is partly your passion. Partly it's luck. It's your connecting with something in your way, and that thing being something that a large number of other people love. Because frankly, if you write something really, really great that's obscure and difficult, the odds of it becoming a hit, becoming influential, are pretty slim. Doesn't mean it's not great, but the measures that we use of greatness are not useful in making your own work. They're good to know. They're great things to aspire to. And it's the main thing is, though, I look at them as tools. I look at them like when you've watched, a lot of great shows and movies, and you've seen how they did something, like how they revealed a character or how they explained a piece of the plot, and you file that away as a tool. I know that if I do a scene where somebody, writes the secret to the plot on a piece of paper and then floats it down the river, cool. That's a great, great thing that you can use your version of. It's a tool. And the way that you analyze great stuff is to take it apart and keep the parts for your own personal scrap pile. That's what I believe. So I do think you should look at everything. Look at great stuff, look at horrible stuff, and ransack it for tools. Ransack it for skills, ways that they pulled off tricks, ways that they evoked emotion or ideas, ways that they made things move faster or slower. Whatever it is, that's what you want. You want those tools and you want those skills, and then you need to work on your process. It's a separate thing nobody talks about, is the process of sitting down every day and doing a little piece of the story. Just a piece, because that's all you can do at any time. So that is why I don't spend a lot of time breaking down, analyzing great movies. Down the line when I'm done with the step-by-step process, I might do some of that because it is fun. People like it. It's relaxing. But I don't feel like I need to do that. There's plenty of that out there. You can spend the rest of your life watching YouTube videos and reading books telling you how great certain things are. I'm not sure what you mean by it might be a little true, Andrew. So let me know and I will discuss that. How do you keep a theme through the script? That's a great question. I believe one thing you want to do is make sure that the theme is of interest or a matter for the characters. If you make it something that they care about, it carries itself through the script because they're working on that problem. If the theme is saving the world because of environmental crisis, and the people are doing that, they're trying to do that, then that theme is going to come through. The important thing about theme, though, is it's not just referring to a topic. It's making a statement about that topic. I actually believe, do I have that? I don't think I do. I did a whole video on theme, and it's called Theme. So if you look at the thumbnails, you'll see one, it's I think blue, and it says Theme. I would definitely look at that because one of the things that's most important is a theme isn't just war. Okay, that's not actually a theme for a story. It's a theme, it's a topic, but it's not the theme for within a story. A theme is somebody saying war is necessary to organize society. Okay, that's a theme. It's a statement about a topic. By the way, I don't necessarily believe that. I think some people do. Or war is where men prove themselves. John Milius loved that theme. But whatever the theme is, that issue, that statement should be of concern to the characters. Ideally, it's in some way related to the plot, as in the theme, war is where men prove themselves to be men, is a major theme of Born on the 4th of July. And Born on the 4th of July says, no, bad, do not believe that. But it starts out with a character who believes that he's going to prove himself a man. He's going to be valuable to society by joining a war. It unfortunately turns out to be untrue. And by the time he comes back, he's been paralyzed and neglected by his country and in a lot of turmoil. That's a way that the theme plays out in the story. So, Roddy, that's exactly a good example of a theme that's built into the story. If you're only trying to name the theme, like somebody makes a speech about the theme in your story, it's not going to play very well. It's not going to run throughout the script. the way that a theme plays throughout a script is that the characters care about this topic, have opinions, or are acting out arguments about this statement. And a theme is a statement on a topic or a question. The theme could be, should we defund the police? That would be an interesting movie. And then if the theme is, should we defund the police, you may or may not come up with an answer. You may come up with conflicting opinions on the answer and leave the audience with that question. That's cool. That's a theme. Yay, I can get another watch on the video. Okay. I love movies like Hell or High Water, but that tread ground that seems tired but isn't. Yes, I agree. It is not tired, and that movie is not a tired movie. That movie is I think excellent. Cynicism does kill creativity. That's absolutely true. Solace. I do not know what that is. Another serial killer that I don't know about. I am behind on my serial killers. Okay. I see your question, Lue Sassy, and welcome. Hi. Yeah, I get that. Let me get to that. That's actually a really interesting question. You know what? Let's just do that now. What the heck? You're here. I am grateful to you for showing up live and asking a question. So here's the thing. You've sort of got several questions built into it. There's actually a couple. What you're saying is the way you write it is only understandable for yourself. You understand the lines in your own way. So let's talk about that, because the lines, I assume you mean the lines of dialogue, the way things are going to be spoken. But there's also understanding the story, the characters, the plot. And I want to make sure I understand what you mean. But no matter what, if you are writing something, if you are writing a script, you are writing an incomplete work of art. You are writing something that is going to be handed over to other artists to do their job with it. Your art is to supply the other artists with the missing piece that writers supply to do their jobs. And then the audience sees that. So your work never gets directly to an audience. So if you are writing a script and you believe that the line can only be said one way, you will inevitably run into problems, because while people might say it almost the way you want, or sometimes even luck into saying things the way you think, the truth is every actor and every director needs, part of their job is making it their own, is saying it their way. If you give the same character to 5 different actors, and this has happened repeatedly in the theater, it doesn't happen so much in the movies, but it does, you will find that even the same line is entirely different when spoken by different actors in different productions. If you watch 5 versions of Hamlet, you will see the same exact lines done differently. That's the job of the dramatic writer, is to write a line that can play, but does not have to play one way or another. So the first thing I would say is, if you understand the lines in your own way and you need them to be said in exactly that way, you shouldn't be writing scripts. You should be writing novels or something like that. Something where the finished work is what you write and you give that to the audience directly. No, you can't create the intonations. You can't do a performance. That's the whole point of performance. It's the performer's art. It's not yours. But if you mean, and this is the tricky part, if you mean you understand the lines, in other words, it's simply people don't understand what the lines mean, that's different. Then we have to think about, why don't they understand the lines? Because if you're writing something that other people don't understand, you have to sort of get to a point of saying, why am I not communicating? And it can be that simply you don't want to. But if you're writing something and you don't care that only a small percentage understand it, cool, then just write it that way and put it out there. Once again, don't write a script. A script is not untouchable. Scripts are changed by everyone who works on it. So if you have things that you want exactly the way you write it, don't write a script. I believe I have asked this question. Ask yourself this question. Does it have to be a script? Is there some other way you can write this thing you want, to write it as a novel, to write it as a poem, to write it as a graphic novel that someone else will illustrate? But whatever you do, don't ever think that when you write a script, your words will stay exactly as you wrote them. That doesn't happen. But Lue is explaining. Pretend to be a director in my imagination. So I can't write something without being an imaginary film director. I understand. You write it. That's absolutely fine. Everybody does that to some extent. The trick is, when you do that, to get to where you can see it, but when someone else reads it, they see it their way. And it works both ways. Any good line will work that way. Everyone will see a line differently, but the basic meaning will become clear. It will translate to all those different vibes. So all I can say is, if you want to be a film director, then you probably have to be a film director. You can't be a writer and get the director to do what you want. That really doesn't happen. Partly because they're different people. It's not even that they're right or wrong. It's not a power struggle. You will never have enough power to make people talk the way you want. You won't get actors to say things exactly the way you think. Every good director learns the art of letting go of that control. The truth is, no good director in the world tells an actor how to say a line. Study directing if you don't believe me on this one. No director will say, oh, you have to say it, a little more of a pause there, and your voice has to go up a little, and you have to kind of look like that. That's not what directors do. What directors do is try and help the actor feel confident, and help the actor if they don't understand the inner workings of the scene. And mainly they have to help everyone get organized to do the same thing at the same time in front of the cameras when they're rolling. Directing does not mean controlling. It really, really doesn't. And writing means even less controlling than directing. A writer has no control except over the page itself. And even that you don't. They'll take it away from you. They'll give it to they'll change your words. So therefore the answer is, if you want to write that way, and it works for other people, like I write that way. I think I know exactly how somebody's going to say something, and I write it down. But then when somebody says it a different way, okay, great, enjoy. The one thing I would really urge you to do about this is get some production. Get your script on a screen. Do I have that one? I wrote yeah, I don't have it. I'm going to type this here. So one of my videos is called, I think it is. I have to look this up. But anyway, the argument here is that part of learning to be a script writer is learning what happens when people produce and perform and release your work. And that until you have gone through that process multiple times, you won't really be a good screenwriter. You might be a good writer of scripts, but you won't really be a functional writer for producing things until you've actually gone through it a bunch of times. I directed my own work and had people direct, like I wrote plays and had people do them. And I had to do that like 4 or 5 times, making my own indie no-budget movies to even get to where I was good enough as a writer and director for it to be worthwhile work. Your first movie is not going to be great. The odds of it being great are iffy. There will be great stuff in it. There may be magical elements, but you need to practice the art. Hang on just a second. I am going to quickly check the site to see the title of this video, because I want to make sure. Did I actually write that title? See, I don't think I did. I think it's in another. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, it is. It's called Get Your Script on a Screen. I'm a genius. All right. So let's do this again. Get Your Script on a Screen. It is a video on this channel. It's got a bright blue thumbnail with bright pink letters. You can't miss it. So I advise you to watch that. I hope this is helping you, Lue. As far as getting it to a producer, you just have, when you present it to your producer, you can tell them whatever you want. They don't care. The answer is, when you present your script to a producer, they look at it as an object for them to do their job with, which includes having it rewritten, maybe by you, maybe by someone else, and giving it to directors and actors who are going to do whatever they need to do with it. So you don't have that control. You don't. The only way you have that control is if you direct it and produce it and finance it yourself. Because if you're not paying for it, then you have that much less say, because the person who's paying for it owns it. So I would urge you to learn what DIY filmmaking is all about and try to do some of that. How do you approach balancing the audience need to be informed with the classic show, don't tell? This is great. This is a good question. I will tell you, Anthony, thank you for being here and thank you for asking. Okay, let me just make sure you guys got that again. How do you approach balancing the audience need to be informed with the classic show, don't tell adage? There's a trick, there's a landmine inside this question, which is the audience's need to be informed. You know what's driving most scripts? It's not the audience's need to be informed. It's the writer and director and producers need to inform the audience, which is entirely different. The truth is, the audience doesn't want to be informed. They want to figure it out for themselves. So the show don't tell works because they want you to put the information into the show don't tell so they can figure it out. And then they don't need to be informed. They figured it out. If you want them to know that a character is greedy, you need to show them in that person's behavior and dialogue. Let's also make a very important distinction here. Show, don't tell does not mean not dialogue. Show means show through the behavior and words of a character, not show pictures. People get into that and they're like, oh, show, don't tell, don't have them talk. Bullshit. That's stupid. Movies are a verbal medium as well as a visual medium. The idea that it's better to be visual than verbal is bad. It's just not true. If you don't have good words and good dramatic dialogue where people are raising questions and exposing their feelings and setting out their ideas, then all the visuals in the world will not help you. And the way that we know this is because there's tons of visually adept movies that suck. There are, at this point in film history, by the way, this sort of tipped in the 70s when film schools were teaching visual medium, which is, it truly is a visual medium. It's also a verbal medium. And the fear that things would be too talky led to a destruction of one of the glories of Hollywood filmmaking, which was good dialogue. Good dialogue where people didn't tell stuff, they showed through their behavior. they said, I'm going to rent a boat and have a party, and that the real answer to that was that there's a subtext underneath it where we understand what the goal is. You don't just show visually, but you do show, don't tell, in the sense that you don't just have people explain stuff. I wrote a really good video on this called Exposition, Your New Best Friend. And that's got a lot of insight into this question of the fact that the audience does want to know what they need to know to follow the story, but they don't want to have it explained to them. They want the characters to explain it to each other. And that always works. There's another on-the-nose dialogue, which is also about the same topic. Man, this is what's interesting. As the years have gone by now, I'm coming up on 2 years doing this, I've now got this stock of things where the answers are there. You can find them. So that's the answer to the classic need to be informed. The truth is, they only want to be a little informed. They really only want a little piece at a time. And that's what scenes are. Scenes are this one next step. You just do one next step. You never explain everything. That's the worst moment is when somebody explains stuff. You want them to inform the audience tangentially while they are trying to do something with the other character. They are trying to scare the other character. They are trying to reform the other character. They are trying to do something to the other character which requires them to release information. Yeah, I had a feeling you'd get it. It's a great question, and I hope that helps. You are entirely welcome, Louie. I wish I had better news for you, Louie, on that, because it is deeply frustrating. But that is the art of being a screenwriter, is the art of letting go of all that control and just learning how to write something that no matter how they say it, it will work. That's the real cool art of screenwriting. To write a line that you really can't say wrong. And that sounds crazy. It sounds stupid. But the truth is, there are such things. There's lines, and that's frankly most of the good lines, most of the good dialogue, most of the good writing that you see is stuff that has its own built-in tone and its own built-in dramatic power. And then it doesn't matter who says it or how. Okay. Is it okay to write huge scripts that require a lot of money and CGI stuff and things you can't get right now, or should I be writing depending on my financial state? That depends. If you are writing a script with the pure intention of selling it, yes, there's nothing wrong with writing an expensive script if you're planning to sell it to companies that make expensive scripts. Do beware. I ran into this. I wrote a TV pilot. My first TV pilot, I wanted to prove that I could write a TV pilot because I had been writing movies for 20 years, but I wanted to show, look, I know how to write a story that sets up the questions and puts the moving parts into action. And I had this project that I really loved. It was called Blood and Smoke. Do I have that here? I think I do. Hold on. No, I do not. Hang on a second. Okay. Okay. If you go onto my website, you will see a section called Creative. And the Creative section is a bunch of my scripts and some links to things that I've directed and stuff. But the Blood and Smoke script is there. You can download a PDF of the first TV pilot that I wrote, which I wrote entirely just to show off. I wrote this to write the most extravagant, expensive historical drama about the beginning of auto racing. It's based on a true story. I even optioned the book so that I could do this. And honestly, people loved it. They were like, wow, this is great. It costs so much money that we can't make it. Because I never occurred to me that anyone would want to make it. I just I want to get a job on a staff. So I'm going to prove that I know how to write. And it didn't occur to me that that somebody might try and make it, because that's just such a long shot. Anyway, so the question is, should you write a big expensive script? Yeah. I mean, yes, you will find that people say, oh, well, now we can only sell it to these 7 companies. And they tend not to buy original scripts. For instance, they buy intellectual property. So, should you do that? Why not? You're writing. Think of every script you write as a sample. It's an example of you doing something that you do well. And as such, you never know how it will help you. Somebody might read it and say, oh, I have a project, and I bet he'd be a good writer for it because he wrote this great thing that I can't afford to produce. Cool. That's a valid use of a script. If you want to make it easier for producers to get it produced, then write cheap. Write things that have limited numbers of characters, limited numbers of locations, no special effects or few. Everything is a choice. There's not a right or wrong to this. You should not, it's not should. There's no should here. Let me just repeat this. Everything is a choice, and every choice has a price. In other words, if you write a big, expensive CGI script, the price is no low-budget producers can make it. But that may not be the point. The point may be to try and attract attention to your writing, or just to express your vision. Cool. As long as you don't expect that a low-budget producer will make a big-budget film, you're fine. There's a price to be paid. If you decide to write a low-budget script, you frankly will lose a lot of high-budget producers because they can't make enough money back on low-budget. I've run into this a lot because I love low-budget, and I would endlessly be writing things and the people would say, it's not worth it for me to make this movie. If I make this movie and it costs $5 million and it makes $30 million, that's still not enough profit because I'm in the game of I want $100 million. So frighteningly enough, a lot of producers will say, at least Hollywood producers, this movie is too small to be worth making, which is insane, but it happens. So is there a right or wrong? No. Write the one that you feel like you want to write. Yes, exactly. Very often, and I think you'll see this in the step-by-step project. Very often, you start by just blurting stuff out that you want to get into the script, but you haven't quite dramatized it. You haven't quite made it a scene yet. You haven't quite made it an action. But that's okay. That's what drafts are for. You start by throwing down whatever you can, even if it's a little essay that one character says, and then you think, okay, well, how can I make this into a dialogue where just this piece of it is expressed and the rest of it is implied? Stuff like that. Jesse Dark. Let me see. Hang on just a second and let me see. I am pretty sure it is there, but I could have messed up. It is entirely possible to mess up. I will tell you that for sure. I'm just currently looking at my website while we speak. Hang on there. Okay, creative. So I'm tapping the old creative. No, it's there. It's just hard to see. I'm going to share my screen. Hang on. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Hang on while I share this screen. Ready? Okay. So this is my website, Writing for Screens. I'm going down. You go down a page, and then you go to here. Okay? Here, you go to this one, Creative, the one that I'm making white, that one. See it? Creative. Oh, you can't see it. Here. Okay. Well, it's the one down in the corner, which unfortunately Oh, you know what I can do? Here, watch this. Boom. Oh, sorry. Boom. No. All right. So it's this one, creative. You click on creative, and there's some jokes. And then here, unfortunately, I did not make it clear. See that it says smoke? That's blood and smoke. That's the script, blood and smoke. There it is, blood and smoke. Hour-long drama pilot. You just click the blue link here, and it will download a PDF. Okay? So, there we go. Yeah, Jesse Dark, by the way, man, that's another one. That's another book I adapted that I'm really proud of. Nobody made these things, but what are you going to do? I only have a few more minutes. I want to answer a couple of other questions here that people wrote in. And this one, do one about staying motivated. That was just today. That was just like moments ago. Someone asked me to do one about staying motivated. And I want to do that. I want to talk about staying motivated because there's a couple of things I can tell you about staying motivated. The first is expect it to ebb and flow. Expect the motivation to come and go. You don't write all at once. You have to be able to get back into it. So I would strongly suggest that you look at these videos. It's just so many good videos here. Small steps. This is a really important one. And create a ritual. In other words, if you can find a process, which I describe in a lot about how you find your own process here in this video, create a ritual. What you need to do is create a set of steps that you always take when you write. So that if you only write for an hour a week, that's cool. Sometimes that's all you can do. But when you do it, you want to be able to get back into the flow. The motivation comes from the work and from the confidence in the process. You don't have to have confidence that it will make you $1 billion. You don't have to be motivated by results. I strongly advise you to focus your motivation on the process, to say, if I get a little bit done, then tomorrow I'm going to get a little more done. If you've done this a bunch of times, this is hard to do at first. It's like anything. Practicing it is what gives you the pleasure in the process. One of the reasons I'm doing this ridiculous project where I'm showing you step by step how to write a script is so that you'll get used to this idea that you sit down and you may not be thinking about it, you may not be motivated, whatever it is, but if you just focus on one step at a time, you will find the motivation to do that piece, to make that piece fun, to make it good, to make it strong, to make it interesting. That's how you stay motivated, because no one can stay motivated all the time. You are going to feel doubt. You are going to feel crappy. But if you keep doing the process, that actually gets to where even when you have bad experiences, even if you write something and it gets bashed up and hated, you still want to go back to the process because that's the fun. That's the cool thing, is the joy of doing the work itself and making something that you like. That's the best way I know to stay motivated. If it's possible for you, don't think about results. That's what I would say. Everyone thinks the motivation is the result. It's not. The best motivation is the competence and pleasure in the process of doing the work. The truth is, like, if you think about this, most artists, they don't want to retire. They don't want to stop doing their art. Like, there's the whole point about doing art is to keep doing art. That's really the main goal. You may have one thing to say, but mostly you don't. Mostly you're going to have a lot of things to say, and whatever it is that you're working on, that's the thing that's motivating you at that moment. So that is my main point about motivation. Very very briefly can answer one or two or more, and then I'm out. Could you tell me what the margin space is? No, I can't. I don't know. And if you are in Europe, then A4. If you are in the US, then it's US letter. But the main thing is margins, spaces, it's you sort of compare to a bunch of printed scripts that you found, PDFs, and get a sense of it. But there are so many sites which tell you exactly. It's like an inch to an inch and a half on the left. Sorry, I'm in America. And an inch on the right, and an inch on the top, and an inch and a half on the bottom, and you sort of work it out. There's tons of advice on this. I am not an expert. I don't believe there is a right answer, but I do know that there are. If you just Google screenplay format, you'll find tons of stuff about this. Okay, and this is the last one, everybody. Is it better to sell your script or look at the resources to make it? That is a question for you. I turn that back to you. Is it better in one way or another? Like if you want to make money from it, then you want to sell it because that's selling it gives you money for it. You then lose control over it. It may never. I have sold scripts. Most of the scripts that I was paid to write, paid a fortune to write, and then I wrote it, and then they read it, and they liked it, and then they put it on the shelf, and no one has ever seen it since. I have scripts that I worked a year on and was paid a lot of money, and then about 12 people read it. That is selling a script. 12 people read a script, and for various reasons, it doesn't get made, and they put it on a shelf. And actually, they don't put it on a shelf anymore. They put it in a folder, a digital folder, and that's it. Never gets seen again. Is that satisfying? Well, it was satisfying to get the money. It was satisfying to get the good relationship with the people I did. But assuming you are going to sell it, it's not within your control. You can write it to sell, but if you want to make it, then you just have to recognize that if you make a script yourself, you're going to lose all your money. If you make a script for yourself, you are going to lose every penny you put in. Let me tell you the script. It's really good. Oh, my script. Okay, thank you. Yes, I agree. I think it's great. Okay, what is your? There's no difference. They are constantly changing. You don't really work with the studio. You work with people who work at the studio, and they change jobs every 6 months to a year. And so therefore the answer is I had wonderful experiences just about everywhere I worked. I mean, honestly, getting to work at all in Hollywood is pretty freaking cool. But I mean, some of the jobs I was not thrilled with. What are you going to do? But the answer is there are no, studios are not like back in the 30s and 40s, the studios had personalities. Warner Brothers, MGM were different from each other somewhat. And that has long gone away. I'd like both of us to make a you and me both, Javier. You and me both. That's what everyone would like. I don't know anybody who gets both of those except now and then a freak of nature where somebody gets immensely lucky. That's about it. That is about all. And I think on that, I'm going to leave. Yes, exactly. It's which the people you work with make it good or bad. That's really how it is. The main thing is you decide what your values are and just recognize that you can't have everything. Oh, this just keeps coming up. I'm just going to keep saying it because it's just true. Everything is a choice, and every choice has a price. So if you want control, you have to give up money. If you want money, you have to give up control. Choice, price. And with that incredible wisdom, I wish you all well. I'll see you Monday. Go write something.